You're watching Famous Dave on YouTube.
What's up, folks? Good morning as we come into Synthetic Monday, the way we would call a Tuesday that was the first day of the trading week on the trading floor, and a big gap up onto the open here as we have the Dow looking to be the biggest gapper here, up over 2% as we come into the open, with also the NASDAQ and the S&P also moving up over 1% here. So, kudos to those who have stayed short vol. TVIX looking to open around 137 and change, as everything seems to be great news. Everything's wonderful out there in the stock market, I suppose. You see all these newscasts on TV of like Lake of the Ozarks, people out partying as if they just, you see pictures of other countries and everybody's like covered up, and there's pictures of hospital, and you see the US and it's just people outside, like not a mask to be seen, like everybody's partying, and it must just give people a really bad impression of us overseas. The reality here on the ground, at least in Massachusetts, is that everything's pretty much still shut down. You don't see those scenes of people all gathered together like that. I have to think that those are more isolated incidents than the news would have you think, because but they certainly make Americans look kind of dumb, just completely ignoring the virus and social distancing and all that stuff. I think the reality is probably that most people are still covered up, worried about their health, and being responsible. But when you see people out at pool parties and stuff, like not a care in the world, and the people they interview on this news saying, oh, it's all a hoax, there's no reason to do social distancing at all, then that's frustrating. A lot of people are suffering and want to get back to work. And I get that, and I know people have lost business, and that's very real. And the people want to get back to work and reopen. The reality, I think, in a lot of these businesses is that if you go and open your business, nobody's really coming in right now, because there just isn't the for those areas where the businesses are allowed to open. Yeah, there's some resort areas. I saw Lake Geneva. Now, Lake Geneva is the only place in the world where I've actually ever rented a speedboat myself. So I'm very familiar with that area. You see people out there, and businesses, obviously some businesses must be making money up there. But I would just be afraid that anybody there could have the virus, and you're just making it so much easier to pass around. The thing is like, it doesn't show up for weeks, right? So some places reopen, they're like, oh, everything's great. Nobody looks sick here, and it's a longer term thing. So I guess the point I'm making is that although the news shows that people are out and stuff, people aren't really out, and we have the market rallying, and that's because some economic indicators are showing things are better with the economy opening up. But I don't think that should be a surprise. That should be expected, that things are going to come back when they start to open up. People that have been completely shut down, when they open some of that stuff up, of course, economic indicators are going to show there's more economic activity. That's not a reason to, as far as I'm concerned, to like go all in on anything. So anyway, it's very hard for me to separate my particular situation from everybody else's, and my main gig is working at a fancy resort, and fancy resort, it's not going to be really happening this year, I don't think, at least for a while. When you see Lake Geneva and it looks rocking, I think, though, they just pick certain hot spots there, if you excuse the pun, where it's congested. But I think most businesses still are not, making money by any stretch of the imagination. They're not really rocking out. Anyway, enough of the social commentary. Let's take a look at the term structure as we really things are normalizing in VIX land. Once again, not unexpected here, but that dimple in the term structure that we've talked about before, really more prevalent than ever, as the term structure does appear to be concerned with the time period around the election. You can see just Russell Rhodes had a tweet about this weekend, and you can really see just that back end of the term structure, just more activity than usual here. Notably, the VIX down below 28. I think the real test is if we break the recent low, which was 26 and change, but you can see they're starting to get some more distance between the VIX futures and spot, which is healthy. It's good news for those of us short the VIX. You can see there's over 2 points in a spread between the spot and the July future, which is a healthy, more healthy situation than we've been seeing. A lot of times when you see this chart, it looks similar, even though it's not, because it just kind of rescales it so it will fit the screen the right way. But that's why you got to dig into the numbers here. And the numbers today, contango 3%, not a whole lot. Chart's still pretty flat here, but definitely we've seen stuff come in. Let's take a look at the VIX chart over the last couple days here. And my charts are all wonky this morning. Everything was like factory reset and so I had to go and customize everything back again before I got going here this morning. All right, so if we look at a chart here, this is the story over the end of last week. We had a little pop in the VIX up to 31 and change, and then you can just see this kind of like pretty much straight down over coming into the overnight Thursday into Friday, and then it's kind of a little deceptive because there was a weekend in between here, but nevertheless, a down move in the VIX here. Let's back this up a little bit to the recent low, which we saw of a 26 down here on, it looks like the 12th. So that's about 2 weeks ago. Interesting to see if we will break through that. We have broken through that 3,000 psychological level in the E-minis, however, and we will see. I think that means that the S&P will be above 3,000 definitely when we open today. Of course, the SPX level right now, still not open for the day. Let's take a look at the NASDAQ. As we're just about coming into the open today, and slightly off the highs, but still just this pretty solid uptrend for the last week in the NASDAQ. Now, the NASDAQ a lot closer to breaking out into all-time highs than the other indices here. Let's back up to a yearly, and we can see pretty close here to that 97.63 level, which would be the all-time high in the NASDAQ. I did do an interview with Greg Gossett on Friday where we were talking about breaking out of the highs here. And, the market tells a different story than the media. And to the market, it feels like we're just kind of in normal rally mode. And it's felt that way for a few weeks now. And so if you're trading the numbers and you're kind of reacting to what's going on in the market, then you're long here and it's working out. Of course, there's worry, and there's people on the other side of this talking about how, who are bearish. But if you're just trading the numbers and kind of trading the momentum of how things are going here, then you've been long this market for some time. I wanted to talk for a second about this Bill Ackman trade. Bill Ackman being a famous investor. I think he was well known for the Herbalife. He was short, I think, Herbalife I'm sorry. And it didn't work out for him so well a couple years ago. However, he had this killer trade. a couple weeks ago, or I'm sorry, it was actually about 2 months ago, that is being touted as the most amazing trade in history. I just wanted to go over it really quickly for you here. It looks like you're using an ad blocker. What he basically did, I don't know if you remember that movie, The Big Short, but The Big Short, they were talking about trading swaps, and essentially Bill Ackman got the came to the understanding in, I believe, early February that yes, indeed, coronavirus was coming, and yes, indeed, it was going to cause chaos in the U.S. financial markets. And so he didn't really want to go in and just dump all of his clients' holdings. It's pretty hard to, as a money manager, to go in and say to your clients, look, I'm dumping all your holdings here. It doesn't go over well, and it's really difficult to do if you're a money manager. However, he found another way, and his other way was had to do with these mortgage-backed securities, essentially insurance on your mortgage. And the products that he ended up buying have a 5-year maturity, but I think it was something like, it was a huge deal, a huge bet that he placed on the fact that insurance on mortgages would go higher. It was at a low in the market for that insurance, and he made a bet. He had to make a bet. I believe it was $27 million per month, but he had to do it for 5 years. So he put this trade on, thinking that yes, the market was going to have huge repercussions from the coronavirus. And yes, it was going to become, people were going to be less reliable in paying their mortgage payments, and thus insurance on mortgage payments was going to go up. And he placed a bet, and it made 100 times the initial investment in just under 100 times the initial investment in less than 30 days. So from 27 million into 2.6 billion. So what this ended up doing, now Bill Ackman has a huge amount of money under that he manages. I think he manages something like, I think it's like $6 billion, something like that. And don't quote me on that because I'm not positive exactly what his AUM is. However, he turned what could potentially be a down year if you just had the normal long market portfolio into an up year. And supposedly he's up about in the 60s, so up 68%, I think I read, on the year, whereas the S&P is down. And so just a monumentally effective trade by Bill Ackman, highlighted, I was watching some videos on it this weekend, but it's really interesting to see somebody who, they get an idea and they have the self-confidence to execute on that idea, and then when it works out, it's just a beautiful thing. And that's kind of what we all want to do when we're trading the markets, is come in, have our own ideas, and be right. So kudos to the gentleman here, Bill Ackman, for that trade, turning 27 million into 2.6 billion. Now, you and I might not have 27 million to bet on one trade, but we can still be successful in our own right. And 100 times your money, even if you just have an account that you just started with $500, 100 times your money is going to put you certainly in a better position real quick. So kudos to him, and really inspirational for all the rest of us. Okay, so as we come into the trading day here, actually the bell already rang, but we see E-minis up 57, and indeed the SPX now over 3,000. We'll see if these levels actually hold up here as we move further into the trading day here. So thanks for watching. Best of luck to you all this week, and I will probably check in with you tomorrow back here on the Short Vol Show Live. Notice I did change the YouTube name of the channel to the Short Vol Show Live. I figured it was kind of like sort of more professional than Famous Dave. And I've changed a little bit of the branding on Twitter as well. It's still the same at the Famous Dave, but the name is Short Vol Show Live now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You're watching Famous Dave on YouTube.